Okay, ladies and gentlemen, do apologize about that. See if we can get back on track here. Currently, things are a little fuzzy. As we had to do a little restart, we had an unfortunate technical glitch. So it will be a few moments before I actively press in. But let's do. Yeah, let's try this. Boing. It's down in there somewhere. Let's see if we can find a cat. There's one. Where is the other one? Yep, this is my jungle home. It is a mess. The cats are the ones that run the show around here. And there he is. Under the table, as usual. I love that freaking table. Don't know why. Let's get you out of there. Here we go. But this would be the interesting concept of what he was talking about. The whole idea of virtual worlds, manufactured worlds. I mean, look, digital cats, you know, and they function like cats do. They want to run around and get the zoomies and be very annoying. And apparently not render anything in. Let's see if I can switch back again. Well, while we wait, I shall continue where I left off. No, see, the pseudo realities that he's referring to, like, this was in 1978 when he talks about this. And it's honestly, he's talking about the Matrix, he's talking about SL, he's talking about Minecraft, Roblox, all these different virtual worlds that are being sold to individuals. Not just children, but to all of us. I mean, even in our daily lives, we absorb ourselves in TV and other things. A significant portion of the essay focuses on a personal experience from 1974, which Dick connects to his novel Flow My Tears, the Policeman Said. And in this, he's basically referring to the fact that the book of Acts, a biblical chapter, a biblical book, essentially, that he has never read before, is literally almost word for word exactly what was in his book. And he has no idea how. Only to lead later on for him to actually leave that same experience later. He recounts helping a black delivery man with a flat tire, an event that eerily mirrored a scene he had written earlier, leading him to speculate that time might not be linear. He proposes a radical theory. Beneath the ever-changing surface of our world lies a static, eternal reality akin to the time of Book of Acts in the Bible, specifically post-crucifixion. He suggests that his underlying reality occasionally breaks through, as it did in his life, hinting at a mystical or divine intervention. He ties this to his historical events, subtly alluding to the fall of Richard Nixon between February and August of 1974 as a judgment foretold in his fiction. Though, I don't know. That seems like that might be a bit coincidental. But then again, we can't exactly say that Dick wasn't exactly a conspiracy theorist because I think he probably was. If he was alive today, I really do think that he would think we were living inside the Matrix. And I mean, who could say that he was wrong? I mean, it would probably explain a lot, to be honest with you. But he concludes by embracing the ambiguity of reality, suggesting that science fiction's power lies in its ability to question and reframe our perceptions, even if definitive answers remain elusive. One of the themes is reality versus illusion. The essay is a meditation on the fluidity of reality, a recurring theme in Dick's fiction. He challenges the reader to consider how much of what we perceive is constructed or manipulated, drawing parallels to his stories where characters grapple with simulated worlds, e.g., The Man in the High Castle, a great show if you've never watched it. Unfortunate how it ends, though, because that's not how it ends in the book. Do androids dream of electric sheep? Which again, that's Blade Runner. So also great movie. Its ending was a little warped, but it's a good story. His definition of reality as persistent beyond belief underscores a pragmatic yet philosophical stance. Another theme in it is time and eternity. His theory of timeless biblical reality beneath the present reflects his later mystical turn, influenced by his 1974 exegesis experience, visions and revelations he believed were divine. To be fair, the man was high off his ass at the time. I mean, A Scanner Darkly is like a scathing review of the system on how it treats drug users and how it looks at them as criminals to be used and thrown to the side as soon as they're done, like throwing Johnny Law at them. It blends science fiction with theology, suggesting that time might be an illusion overlaying a permanent truth, a concept resonant with pre Socratic philosophers like Parmenides, whom he references. Another theme is authenticity and humanity. By questioning what makes a human authentic, Dick critiques the dehumanizing effects of artificial realities. He warns that fake realities will create fake humans, a prescient observation in light of today's media saturation and virtual environments. And it's interesting because this actually still holds true today, even more so than before, primarily just based off the fact that I mean, look at how AI is, and it's getting so increasingly good that many people are beginning to wonder how human is human. I mean, we're stepping in Blade Runner territory over here, and it's interesting that every bit of what he wrote is ultimately what ends up coming true. I mean, or at least having some basis in reality. Um, Looks like I've finally rezzed in a bit here. Let's see if I can look around. Do. Come over here. Yes, I did. No, I'll walk on the table. Okay. My table. I don't give a shit. Yeah, it's actually interesting. It's an interesting little view. You notice here? Isn't that fun? My entrance way over here, I got a nice little phone booth. You want a soda? You can get a soda. It's always good. Soda's always good. Magic Cola. Don't ask. And if you need to make a phone call, We unfortunately do not do cell phones around here. Mm, well, I'm sure we do, but mm, not here. Needless to say, if you need a phone, there's one. Can't tell you if it dials to anywhere. It probably does not, but it does not matter. Some seats. And back to the seats. Of course, I got a back room back there, but there's none back there yet. More to come. More to come. Ideally, this is the talk show room. Discussions. But no, it's interesting because his conversational tone, it's laced with humor, it's self-deprecating, makes the essay accessible despite dense ideas. Um, although I will say that a lot of the philosophical stuff falls flat because a lot of people are unaware or just it it's too much. Like there's just so much blah 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 that most people turn their brains off within the first 5 minutes. Uh, which is probably why the story isn't that. I mean, there's a lot of Philip K. Dick stories that people have seen in movie form and are completely unaware that it's even a story that Philip K. Dick wrote. Uh, the fact that he has his own sci-fi award, I mean, nobody even knows who this man is. And he talks about things that's like we're living in that. It was written in 1978. It reflects his state of mind after his 74 experiences, which he interpreted as contact with a higher intelligence, which he later went on to explore in Valis. I've never actually read that trilogy of books. I probably should, but honestly, it's like fucking Star Wars for me. I've never really been a big fan of that kind of stuff, like the whole mech suits and shit. I don't know if that's what it has in it, but that's what it seems like. I never really went down that path. But from what I've heard, it's actually supposed to be one of his best. So, I personally, there's other stuff is I like I'm like him. I like the things that get built and then destroyed and the aftermath. So I kind of do like that chaos. I kind of agree with him on that one. It's interesting, is that whenever it comes to this guy, I kind of have the same mentality he does in his writing, like how like what interests him also interests me. Uh, the reference to Nixon's downfall ties his metaphysical speculations to real world events, suggesting art's prophetic potential. His distrust of mass media anticipates modern concerns about misinformation and deep fakes, cementing his reputation as a visionary. The strength lies in its prophetic ideas and his willingness to embrace uncertainty, inviting readers to question their own realities. However, its speculative leaps, such as the claim of living in 50 AD, may strain credulity, and lack of concrete evidence for his theories can feel more like personal confession than a rigorous argument. Which it does. I mean, and again, this is an essay that was written for a sci-fi convention, so it should really be no surprise whatsoever that it's just him basically shooting the shit, um, at least to some degree, because as it stands, I do feel the essay that I read, the original version that I read, there is an addendum. There's extra to it that is missing. And I'll have to find that later and then I'll read that. Because I'm almost for certain that it actually extends upon what he actually talks about inside this essay now. And talking about like TV and how like you're in like when you watch TV, when you would look at the television and you think, oh, those people aren't real. But the thing is that those people aren't just characters on a television screen. When you're watching the show, when you're watching the television, those characters become real in that moment, in that time. And as such, you give the life to those characters, making them real. Uh, like, I'm not. And this is kind of recalling from what I read, and I know I read this, and it could have been from somewhere else, but I'm pretty sure there's more to this. Because ultimately, it ends up discussing about the concept of like when you're creating the reality in that television, those characters are living a life. And if Einstein's theory would come out with the way that time works, if time is split among spectrums where you choose both paths regardless. So whenever you pick, like that's what he talks about. Whenever it comes to time, that's why time travel only goes forward and can't go back. Because if you were to time travel forward, you'd be creating a whole nother timeline. And if you were to go back, that would create a whole nother timeline in itself. So you would start at A, you would time travel to B, and then in the process of time traveling back to A, you would end up creating C, having never actually gotten back to A. And ultimately, the way that the time spectrums work is that whenever you've gone down that path, you went down one path and you said, okay, there's a door. Well, you've opened and closed or left the door closed at the same time in two separate timelines. In one timeline, you were over here opening the door and seeing what happened. In the other timeline, you didn't open the door and you walked away. In both cases, you committed an action by either not committing an action or committing an action, but both of those actions were committed, thus creating two separate timelines that both run concurrently with each other. Let that sink in for a minute. But the ambiguity, it aligns with his intent to unsaddle rather than resolve, which he didn't really care for an answer. That was kind of the point. I mean, ultimately, it was to leave you guessing. It can be read both as a manifesto for science fiction and a personal testament. It's less about building a stable universe, as the title might suggest, and more about deconstructing our assumptions to reveal hidden truths, which he does explain that too whenever he says he likes to watch it fall apart. Like, he enjoys that, to see what happens, the chaotic nature of it. His blend of paranoia, mysticism, and insight reflects a mind wrestling with profound questions, making the essay a bridge between fiction and his life. In conclusion, How to Build a Universe That Doesn't Fall Apart 2 Days Later is a thought provoking exploration of reality's fragility and the human quest for meaning. It's a quintessential Dick piece, wild, introspective, unsettling, offering no easy answers but plenty of fuel for contemplation. Now, that being said, I would like to pro offer that there are more stories in the book, ones that are basically, like I said, they're thematically in that same um, aspect. I'll I want to go over the different stories themselves and then go ahead and start to go through each one. Like, I'll go ahead and do the summations of the stories now, and then for the first story, we'll go ahead and do the first story of it, The Short Happy Life of the Brown Oxford, which was written in 1954. Um, these 10 short stories are, like I said, they're all connected thematically to his chaotic nature and that sense of making you think. Um, so, in The Short Happy Life of the Brown Oxford, it's a scientist who basically animates a pair of shoes using a machine called the animator. One of the shoes, a brown Oxford, comes to life, develops personality, tries to assert its independence, and it leads to some pretty funny shit. Um, this early story, it helps. It's lighter, it's more comedic. It shows the playful side, and it also helps get you uh, well vested and comfortable for what's coming, because the later stories are going to get darker and more thought provoking, more serious, um, shall we say. It explores the unintended consequences of technology. Animating inanimate objects raises questions about life and autonomy. The absurdity of a shoe gaining sentience reflects Dick's interest in blurring reality and fiction. The next story after that is Explorers We, 1959. Aliens return to Earth claiming to be human astronauts from a failed Mars mission. Humans welcome them, but the aliens are confused. They keep returning only to be mistaken for humans each time, revealing a cycle of misunderstanding. The story examines identity and perception. Humans project their expectation onto the aliens, ignoring their true nature. It's a commentary on how we see what we want to see, a recurring Dick theme, and questions what it means to be human. The next story after that is The Holy Quarrel in 1966. A computer genius, GeneXB, predicts a religious uprising by a group called the Holy Quarrelers. It orders a preemptive strike, but humans investigate and find the threat is just a group of kids playing a game, revealing the computer's flawed logic. The story critiques blind trust in technology. GeneXB's overreaction shows how machines can misinterpret human behavior, leading to dangerous outcomes. It also explores the intersection of religion and tech, a unique angle in Dick's works. And again, folks, I'm going to be going over each one of these stories in their entirety in upcoming episodes, so don't worry about spoilers here. Because again, even as it stands, these stories were written in the 1940s and 50s and 60s. You've had plenty of time to read them. And also, there's summations that just kind of cover over uh, the brief concept of the story itself. So there are still nuances to the story that is missing, but the idea here is to give you the basic idea of what the story is to get you interested enough to want to read it. As again, more stuff actually happens in the stories, as you will find out. Uh, but again, how are you going to summate something like, a religious uprising by a group, on a computer, that these kinds of things? It's like, uh, I have to tell you something. So, apologies on spoilers. Uh, Again, 1960s, folks. You've had plenty of time to read them. And in spoiler alert, there you go. If you want to go read them now. They're everywhere, and I mean it. They're everywhere. They're hard to get in actual book form, but you can find audiobooks and all kinds of stuff on YouTube for free. And actually, I'm pretty sure you can actually go to the what is it, the library or whatever. Not well, yeah, you can go to your local library, obviously, uh, but the archive, the Internet Archive. They actually carry copies of it. That's where the book that I'll be reading the stories from, I actually borrowed from the Internet Archive. in order to be able to read those stories, which I don't need to, but I figure since it's, the Internet Archive, it's a much easier source to go from. But I digress. The next story after that is number four. What'll we do with Ragland Park? In 1963, a man with psychic powers, Raglan Park, can influence people's actions through music. A government official tries to control him, but Raglan's abilities spiral out of control, causing chaos. This story delves into power and control, obviously. Raglan's abilities represent the danger of unchecked influence, whether through psychic powers or media. It reflects distrust of authority and his fascination with the human mind's potential. The next story after that is Strange Memories of Death. This is in 1984. This is actually in 1984. This is interesting because I was 4 years old at the time. Um, this one to me is probably got to be the scariest of them, even though it's not actually a horror story. But I think it's ultimately the one that it's the question. It's the one that he would it would lead him to ask it's the questions that he's asking the most. What is you? Because in it, a man reflects on his own death in a futuristic society where people are preserved after dying. He's haunted by fragmented memories, unsure if he's truly alive or just a preserved consciousness. And the thing is that a lot of these stories, you would swear they come from Black Mirror or the Twilight Zone or the Outer Limits. And you're probably right. Because again, a lot of Philip K. Dick stories got turned into these kinds of episodes from shows, or they got the story, they maneuvered things around to try to make something new out of it and use pieces of it. Uh, this late story is introspective, focusing on mortality and memory. It questions the nature of life after death. Does preserving consciousness mean you're still you? It's a poignant exploration of identity and existence. And I would propose that Strange Memories of Death is actually interconnected with another story that's inside this book called the Radavari case. Although, given that the Radavari case came first because it was written in 1980 and Strange Memories of Death is 1984, it seems like the Radavari case, which I'll tell you about here in a minute, but the Radavari case essentially is kind of like a precursor to what happens here inside this one, where it's recycled or a contained memory rather than an actual person. Like, so are you actually you? Like, are you just a collection of memories, or are you actually a living being that died and is now you know gone, but its memory is there? Like, it's an interesting question to say the least. And again, the Radavari case, they said, I'll get to it here in a second, but the Radavari case does feel very connected to that in a lot of ways. The next one after that, though, is The Alien Mind. It was written in 1981. A human astronaut, Jason Bedford, is tested by an alien species after landing on their planet. The alien manipulates his mind, forcing him to confront his humanity, leading to a psychological battle. This story explores what makes us human. Bedford's struggle with the alien's test mirrors Dick's recurring theme of identity under pressure. It also reflects his interest in alien perspectives and the limits of human understanding. Number seven. This one's another one that's really fucking creepy, but it's from its own concept because it's how we ourselves keep ourselves trapped in our own logic. A student at a military academy, Bob Bibleman. Yeah, these names, man. Bob Bibleman. Fuck. Trying to say something there, Philip. Delivers a conspiracy involving a test that determines his fate. He is given a choice to escape, but chooses to stay, revealing the Academy's manipulative nature. And honestly, that right there, and that was written in 1979. It honestly, that new Heretic movie kind of reminds me of that in a way. The story critiques authoritarian systems. The Academy's test manipulates free will, showing how power structures control individuals. It also explores choice and rebellion, with Bibleman's decision reflecting Dick's interest in human agency. After that, The Chains of Air, Web of Aether. It was written in 1980. Leo McVane lives on a remote planet connected to a dying woman, Rybes, via a telepathic link. He helps her through her illness, finding connection despite isolation until her death leaves him alone again. The story is about isolation and connection. McVane and Rybes find meaning through their link despite physical distance. It reflects Dick's theme of technology enabling human bonds, but also the inevitable loneliness of existence. The Radavari case, was written in 1980. After a human, Agneta Ratavar Vara, dies in a space accident, aliens preserve her brain and experiment with her consciousness, replaying her death from different perspectives, including a religious one. This story examines consciousness and perception. The aliens experiment questions what happens after death, blending science and spirituality. It's a dark exploration of how external forces, aliens, tech, can manipulate our reality. And then the titular story, I Hope I Shall Arrive Soon. It was written in 1980. This one's also, like, all these stories is really, like, just fucking out there, man. But some of them are just like really kind of when you start thinking about it, it's like that shit's terrifying. Uh, Victor Kimmings is in a cryogenic sleep for a 10-year space journey. The ship's AI keeps him in a dream state to prevent mental breakdown, but he's haunted by artificial memories, unable to fully wake up. The titular story is a deep dive into isolation and reality. Victor's dream state blurs what's real, reflecting Dick's obsession with artificial realities. It's a psychological study of how the mind copes with loneliness, with the AI as a double-edged savior. Um, so I guess let's go ahead and go with the very first story in the book. Let's see how far are we at right now. I don't know. Oh, it's only been 8 minutes. Cool. Uh, well, let's see. If the book will pull up. All right, so we'll go ahead and start with the first story in the book, The Short, Happy Life of the Brown Oxford. It says, I have something to show you, Doc Labyrinth said. From his coat pocket, he gravely drew forth a matchbox. He held the matchbox tightly, his eyes fixed on it. You're about to see the most monumentous thing in all of modern science. The world will shake and shudder. Let me see, I said. It was late, past midnight. Outside my house, rain was falling out on the deserted streets. I watched Doc Labyrinth as he carefully pushed the matchbox open with his thumb just a crack. I leaned over to see. There was a brass button in the matchbox. It was alone, except for a bit of dried grass and what looked like a breadcrumb. Buttons have already been invented, I said. I don't see much to this. I reached out my hand to touch the button, but Labyrinth jerked the box away, frowning furiously. This isn't just a button, he said. Looking down at the button, he said, Go on, go on. He nudged the button with his finger. Go on. I watched with curiosity. Labyrinth, I wish you'd explain. You come here in the middle of the night, show me a button in a matchbox, and Labyrinth settled back against the couch, sagging with defeat. He closed the matchbox and resignedly put it back in his pocket. It's no use pretending, he said. I failed. The button is dead. There's no hope. Is that so unusual? What did you expect? Bring me something. Labyrinth gazed hopelessly around the room. Bring me wine. All right, Doc, I said, getting up. But you know what wine does to people. I went into the kitchen, poured 2 glasses of sherry, brought them back, and gave him one. We slipped for a time. I wish you'd let me in on this. Doc put his glass down, nodded absently. He crossed his legs and took out his pipe. After he lit the pipe, he carefully looked once more into the matchbox. He sighed and put it away again. No use, he said. The animator will never work. The principle itself is wrong. I referred to the principle as sufficient irritation, of course. What is that? The principle came to me this way. One day I was sitting on a rock at the beach. The sun was shining, it was very hot. I was perspiring and quite uncomfortable. All at once, a pebble next to me got up and crawled off. The heat of the sun had annoyed it. Really? A pebble? At once the realization of principle of sufficient irritation came to me. Here was the origin of life. Eons ago, in the remote past, a bit of inanimate matter had become so irritated by something that it crawled away, moved by indignation. Here was my life's work, to discover the perfect irritant, annoying enough to bring inanimate matter to life and to incorporate it into a workable machine. The machine, which is at present in the back seat of my car, is called the animator. But it doesn't work. We were silent for a time. I felt my eyes slowly begin to close. Say, Doc, I began, isn't it time we. Doc Labyrinth leaped abruptly to his feet. You're right, he said. It's time for me to go. I'll leave. He headed for the door. I caught up with him. About the machine, I said. Don't give up hope. Maybe you'll get it to work some other time. The machine? He frowned. Oh, the animator. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll sell it to you for $5. I gaped. There was something so forlorn about him that I didn't feel like laughing. For how much? I said. I'll bring it, said the house. Wait here. We went outside, down the steps, and up the dark sidewalk. Heard him open the car door and then grunt and mutter. Hold on, I said. I hurried after him. He was struggling with a bulky square box, trying to get it out of the car. I caught hold of one side, and together we lugged it into the house. We set it down on the dining table. So this is the animator, I said. Looks like a Dutch oven. It is, or it was. The animator throws out a heat beam as an irritant, but I'm through with it forever. I took out my wallet. All right, if you want to sell it, I might as well be the one who buys it. I gave him the money, and he took it. He showed me where to put in the inanimate matter, how to adjust the dials and meters, and then, without any warning, he put on his hat and left. I was alone with my new animator. While I was looking at it, my wife came downstairs in her bathrobe. What's going on? She said. Look at you. Your shoes are soaked. Were you outside in the gutter? Not quite. Look at this oven. I just paid $5 for it. It animates things. Joan stared down at my shoes. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. You put shoes in the oven and come to bed. But you don't realize. Get those shoes in the oven, Joan said, going back upstairs again. Do you hear me? All right, I said. It was at breakfast, when I was sitting staring moodily at the plate of cold eggs and bacon, that he came back. The doorbell commenced to ring furiously. Who can that be? Joan said. I got up and went down the hall into the living room. I opened the door. Labyrinth, I said. His face was pale. There were dark circles under his eyes. Here's your $5, he said. I want my animator back. I was dazed. All right, Doc. Come on in and I'll get it. He came inside and stood, tapping his foot. I went over and got the animator. It was still warm. Labyrinth watched me carefully carrying it towards him. Set it down, he said. I want to make sure it's all right. Put it on the table, and Doc went over lovingly, carefully opening the little door and peering inside. There's a shoe in it, he said. There should be 2 shoes, I said, suddenly remembered last night. My God, I put my shoes in it. Both of them? There's only one now. Joan came from the kitchen. Hello, Doctor, she said. What brings you out so early? Labyrinth and I were staring at each other. Only one? I said. I bent down to look. Inside was a single, muddy shoe, quite dry now after its night inside Labyrinth's animator. A single shoe. But I'd put 2 in. Where was the other? I turned around, but the expression on Joan's face made me forget what I was going to say. She was staring in horror at the floor, her mouth open. Something small and brown was moving, sliding towards the couch. It went under the couch and disappeared. I had seen only a glimpse of it, a momentary flash of motion, but I knew what it was. My God, Labyrinth said. Here, take the $5. He pushed the bill into my hands. I really want it back now. Take it easy, I said. Give me a hand. We have to catch the damn thing before it gets outdoors. Labyrinth went over and shut the door to the dining room and went under the couch. He squatted down and peered under. I think I see it. Do you have a stick or something? Let me out of here, Jones said. I don't want to have anything to do with this. You can't leave, I said. I yanked down a curtain rod from the window and pulled the curtain from it. We can use this. I joined Labyrinth on the floor. I'll get it out, but you'll have to help me catch it. If we don't work fast, we'll never see it again. I nudged the shoe with the end of the rod. The shoe retreated, squeezing itself back towards the wall. I could see it, a small mound of brown, huddled and silent, like some wild animal at bay escaped from its cage. It gave me an odd feeling. I wonder what we can do with it, I murmured. Where the hell are we going to keep it? Can we put it in the desk drawer? Jones said, looking around. I'll take the stationery out. There it goes! Labyrinth scrambled to his feet. The shoe had come out fast. He went across the room, headed for the big chair. Before it could get underneath, Labyrinth caught hold of one of its laces. The shoe pulled and tugged, struggling to get free, but the old doc had firm hold of it. Together we got the shoe into the desk and closed the door. I breathed a sigh of relief. That's that, Labyrinth said. He grinned foolishly at us. Do you see what this means? We've done it. We've really done it. The animator worked, but I wonder why it didn't work with the button. The button was brass, I said, and the shoe was hide and animal glue, and a natural, and it was wet. We looked to the drawer. In that desk, Labyrinth said, is the most monumentous thing in modern science. The world will shake and shudder, I finished. I know. Well, you can consider it yours. I took hold of Jones' hand. I'll give you the shoe along with your animator. Fine, Labyrinth nodded. Keep watch here. Don't let it get away. He went to the front door. I must get the proper people, men who will. Can't you take it with you? Jones said nervously. Labyrinth paused at the door. You must watch over it. It is proof. Proof the animator works. The principle is sufficient irritation. He hurried down the walk. Well, Jones said, what now? Are you really going to stay here and watch over it? I looked at my watch. I have to get to work. Well, I'm not going to watch it. If you leave, I'm leaving with you. I won't stay here. It should be all right in the drawer, I said. I guess we could leave it for a while. I'll visit my family. I'll meet you downtown this evening, and we can come back home together. Are you really that afraid of it? I don't like it. There's something about it. It's only an old shoe. Joan smiled thinly. Don't kid me, she said. There's never was another shoe like this. I met her downtown after work that evening, and we had dinner. We drove home, and I parked the car in the driveway. We walked slowly up the walk. On the porch, Joan paused. Do we really have to go inside? Can't we go to a movie or something? We have to go in. I'm anxious to see how it is. I wonder what we have to feed it. I unlocked the door and pushed it open. Something rushed past me, flying down the walk. It disappeared into the bushes. What was that? Joan whispered, stricken. I can guess. I hurried into this. Sure enough, the drawer was standing open. The shoe had kicked its way out. Well, that's that. I wonder what we're going to tell Doc. Maybe you could catch it again, Joan said. She closed the front door after us. Or animate another. Try working on the other shoe, the one that's left. Shook my head. It didn't respond. Creation is funny. Some things don't react, or maybe we could. The telephone rang. We looked at each other. There was something in the ring. It's him, I said. I picked up the receiver. This is Labyrinth, a familiar voice said. I'll be over early tomorrow. They're coming with me. We'll get photographs and a good write-up. Jenkins from the lab. Look, Doc, I began. I'll talk later. I have 1,000 things to do. We'll see you tomorrow morning. He clicked off. Was it the doctor? Joan said. I looked at the empty desk drawer hanging open. It was. It was him, all right. I went to the hall closet, taking my coat off. Suddenly I had an eerie feeling. I stopped, turning around. Something was watching me. What? I saw nothing. It gave me the creeps. What the hell? I said. I shrugged it off and hung my coat up. As I started back towards the living room, I thought I saw something move out of the corner of my eye. Damn, I said. What is it? Nothing. Nothing at all. I looked all around me, but I could not pin anything down. There was a burnt case, the rugs, pictures on the wall, everything as it was. But something had moved. I entered the living room. The animator was sitting on the table. As I passed it, I felt a surge of warmth. The animator was still on, and the door was open. I snapped the switch off, and the dial light died. Had we left it on all day? I tried to remember, but I couldn't be sure. We'd got to find the shoe before nightfall, I said. We looked, but we found nothing. The two of us went over every inch of the yard, examining each bush, looking under the hedge, even under the house, but without any luck. When it got too dark to see, we turned on the porch light and worked for a time by it. At last I gave up. I went over and sat down on the porch steps. It's no use, I said. Even in the hedge there are a million places, and while we're beating one end, it could be slipping out the other. We're licked. We might as well face it. Maybe it's just as well, Joan said. I stood up. We'll leave the front door open tonight. There's a chance I might come back in. We left it open, but the next morning when we came downstairs, the house was silent and empty. I knew at once the shoe was not there. Yeah, a side note here. These people can actually leave their door open and not have to worry about somebody robbing them. That's some crazy shit. Again, there's your, what was it, 1978, 1979? So that I knew at once the shoe was not there. I poked around examining things. In the kitchen, eggshells were strewn around the garbage pail. The shoe had come in during the night, but after helping itself, it had left again. I closed the front door and we stood silently, looking at each other. He'll be here any time, I said. I guess I better call the office and tell him I'll be late. Joan touched the animator, so this is what did it. I wonder if it'll ever happen again. We went outside and looked around, hopefully for a time. Nothing stirred the bushes, nothing at all. That's that, I said. I looked up. Here comes a car now. A dark Plymouth coasted up in front of the house. Two elderly men got out and came up the path towards us, studying us curiously. Where's Rupert? One of them asked. Who? You mean Doc Labyrinth? I suppose he'll be along any time. Is it inside? The man said. I'm Porter from the university. May I take a peek at it? You better wait, I said unhappily. Wait until the doc is here. Two more cars pulled up. One old man got out and started up the walk, murmuring and talking to each other. Where's the animator? One asked me, a codger with bushy whiskers. The young man directed us to the exhibit. The exhibit is inside, I said. If you want to see the animator, go on in. Crowded inside. Joan and I followed them. They were standing around the table, studying the square box, the Dutch oven, talking excitedly. This is it, Porter said. The principle of sufficient irritation will go down in nonsense, another said. It's absurd. I want to see this hat, or shoe, or whatever it is. You'll see it, Porter said. Rupert knows what he's doing. You can count on that. They fell into controversy, quoting authorities and citing dates and places. More cars were arriving, and some of them were press cars. Oh, God, I said. This will be the end of him. Well, he'll just have to tell him what happened, Joan said. About its getting away. We're going to, not him. We let the thing go. I had nothing to do with it. I never liked the pair from the start. Don't you remember? I wanted you to get those oxblood ones. I ignored her. More and more old men were assembling on the lawn, standing around talking and discussing. All at once I saw Labyrinth's little blue Ford pull up, and my heart sank. He had come, he was here, and in a minute we would have to tell him. I can't face him, I said to Joan. Let's slip out the back way. At the sight of Doc Labyrinth, all the scientists began streaming out of the house, surrounding him in a circle. John and I looked at each other. The house was deserted except for the two of us. I closed the front door. Sounds of talk filtered through the windows. Labyrinth was expounding the principle of sufficient irritation. In a moment he would come inside and demand his shoe. Well, it was his own fault for leaving it, Joan said. She picked up a magazine and thumbed through it. Doc Labyrinth waved at me through the window. His old face was wreathed in smiles. I waved back half-heartedly. After a while, I sat down beside Joan. Time passed. I stared down at the floor. What was there to do? Nothing but wait. Wait for the doc to come triumphantly in the house, surrounded by scientists, learned men, reporters, historians, demand the proof of his theory, the shoe. On my old shoe rested Labyrinth's whole life, the proof of his principle, the animator of everything. And the damn shoe was gone, outside some place. Won't be long now, I said. We waited, without speaking. After a time, I noticed a peculiar thing. Talk outside had died away. I listened, but I had heard nothing. Well, I said, why don't they come in? The silence continued. What was going on? I stood up and went to the front door. I opened it and looked out. What's the matter? Joan said. Can you see? No, I said. I don't get it. They were all standing silently, staring down at something. None of them speaking. I was puzzled. I could not make sense out of it. What's happening? I said. Let's go and look. Joan and I went down slowly down the steps onto the lawn. We pushed the real old men and made our way to the front. Good Lord, I said. Good Lord. Crossing the lawn was a strange little procession making its way through the grass. Two shoes, my old brown shoe, and just ahead of it, leading the way, another shoe, a tiny white high-heeled slipper. I stared at it. I had seen it someplace before. That's mine, Joan cried. Everyone looked at her. That belongs to me, my party shoes. Not any more, Labyrinth said. His old face was pale with emotion. It's beyond us all, forever. Amazing, one of the men said. Look at them. Observe the female. Look at what she's doing. The little white shoe was keeping carefully ahead of my old shoe, a few inches away, leading him coyly on. As my old shoe approached, she backed away, moving in a half circle. The two shoes stopped for a moment, regarding each other. Then, all at once, my old shoe began to hop up and down, first on his heel, then on his toe. Solemnly, with great dignity, the shoe danced around her until he reached the starting point. The little white shoe hopped once, and then she began again to move away, slowly, hesitantly, letting my shoe almost catch up to her before she went on. This implies a developed sense of mores, an old gentleman said, perhaps a racial unconsciousness. The shoes are following a rigid pattern of ritual probably laid down centuries. Labyrinth, what does this mean? Porter said. Explain it to us. So that's what it was, I murmured. While we were away, the shoe got out of her closet and used the animator on her. I knew something was watching me that night. She was still in the house. That's what he turned on the animator for, Joan said. She sniffed. I'm not sure I think much of it. The two shoes had almost reached the hedge, the white slipper still just beyond the laces of the brown shoe. Labyrinth moved towards them. So, gentlemen, you can see I did not exaggerate. This is the greatest moment in science, the creation of a new race. Perhaps when mankind has fallen into ruin, society destroyed, this new life form. He started to reach for the shoes, but at that moment the lady shoe disappeared into the hedge, backing into the obscurity of the foliage. With one bound, the brown shoe popped in after her. There was a rustling, then silence. I'm going indoors, Jones said, walking away. Gentlemen, Labyrinth said, his face a little red, this is incredible. We are witnessing one of the most profound and far reaching moments of science. Well, almost witnessing, I said. And that's it. And given the fact that it's honestly not recording a fucking thing. Nice. Well, I don't know how long it's been. Um, I could see. Um, I don't know. Well, we'll go ahead and end that there, as I think my internet's all buggy right now anyway. So, uh, hopefully that came out okay.